all of it is lined up. And I think that restlessness just left me really unsteady, right? Because you count on that, like that you know what you do in your job and you feel good and this, and that's how I like having a place in the world that is my own, with a career and a profession. And when that got rocked, and what was really I struggled with is like I felt like I was on a linear path. Doing this role, I knew the next step. I wanted to go this way, and then suddenly I didn't want that.
Yeah.
Then I was like, are my aspirations changing? And then I was like, it's not your aspirations. You're just you might not be on the right seat of the bus, but actually I realized I wasn't on the right bus.
Your dream is to become a mom. My dream is to help you get there. I'm Rebecca Gruenspan, a single mom through domestic adoption and an adoption consultant for over a decade. I'll be your guide, along with other adoption professionals and members of the adoption constellation, walking you step by step down this beautiful and complex path of adopting your baby. When I was going through the adoption process, I had no idea what I was doing, what I needed to know, or more importantly, who to trust. Well, after helping hundreds and hundreds of families grow through the beauty and complexity of adoption, I've learned more than a thing or two, and let me tell you, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. This isn't just another podcast sharing adoption stories, but it's for you if you're genuinely committed to diving in with an open heart, eager to learn everything there is to know about adopting a baby so that you can show up for yourself and your child in the best way possible. This podcast is for you if you're ready to put your newfound knowledge into action. Adoption isn't for the weak of heart, and it certainly isn't done when your baby gets placed in your arms. If that's what you think, I'm afraid you're living in la la land. My promise to you is to keep it real if you promise to keep digging. We'll acknowledge the hard, and we'll also celebrate the joy that is adoption. You ready? Let's do this. What does it take to turn life's toughest challenges into a mission of love and support? Welcome to the Adoption Roadmap Podcast, where today's episode delves into the heart of resilience and transformation. I'm your host, Rebecca Gruenspan, and joining us is Kate Shanahan, a survivor, an advocate, and a visionary entrepreneur. Kate's journey through multiple failed IVF attempts, 3 miscarriages, and a fierce battle with breast cancer could have easily been a story of defeat. Instead, it's one of triumph and empowerment. How did she do it? It was inspired by the adoption of her daughter, Emmy, and the birth of an idea that would change their lives and many others. Recognizing a significant gap in the market for natural beauty products tailored for Black individuals, Kate co-founded Sweet Peachtree Marketplace. This venture is not just a business, it's a celebration of heritage, identity, and family, values that are deeply woven into the fabric of every adoptive family's journey. Kate has experienced the ins and outs of the beauty and publishing industries, skills she has leveraged to nurture her business and advocate for adoptive families. Her story is a powerful reminder of how personal struggles can lead to profound societal contributions. Today, Kate is here to share her insights on transracial adoption, her passion for natural hair care, and how she supports other families in embracing their true selves. Whether you are touched by adoption, entrepreneurship, or stories of overcoming adversity, this conversation promises to inspire and inform. Let's welcome Kate Shanahan to the show. Kate, you have 2 daughters, Dory, who is now 11 and is your biological daughter, and Emmy, who is 4 and a half. Who came into your family through adoption. You're a warrior, and I want people to know your story because I know it is going to inspire people. So take us back to right after the birth of your daughter, Dory, as a new mom. What was your pregnancy journey like for her, and how was it for you being a new mom?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for that lovely introduction. I very much appreciate it.
Yes.
I want you to write the story of my life because
Sure.
it's just beautiful. So thank you. Yeah, so my journey began. I was really lucky, one of those beautiful families who just walked along thinking, this is, it's time. Let's have a baby. We were very lucky to conceive naturally. Jory was born full term. She had a couple of health complications that ended up being fine. She spent 2 weeks in the NICU, and I thought at the time this was, a new mom. You're like thrust into this world that's very scary and overwhelming. But, the best news was she came out great. And we were like, well, she just had every test done possibly. That we know she's the healthiest baby actually in the world. We just had she wasn't done cooking yet, right? So she came home and a little uneasy from that, just that first scary experience, but felt really comfortable as a mom and was so excited very fortunate to have a maternity leave and embraced it. And then 5 months later, I went into the doctor with what we thought was a clogged milk duct, which can happen from breastfeeding. And the doctor noticed and said, I'm very thankful for this. He said, let's just run a mammogram. Let's just make sure. Usually they don't like to do mammograms on postpartum women because your body's going through all these changes. But he, thank goodness, referred me to that. So I went for a mammogram, and actually what was the clogged milk duct was in fact a clogged milk duct, but they found breast cancer on the other breast.
Oh,
so
wow.
It was the clogged milk duct that saved my life. Right?
Wow, how random.
How random. So went in, no history, and the first question everybody asks, do you have a history of breast? Nothing. So when I say flabbergasted, floored, in a perpetual kind of panic for the first sort of month of just processing this is an understatement, right? Like it felt like chapter 1 of my life, which I had gloriously, wonderfully, and very much recognized the beauty of the simplicity of it. Things just kind of plugged along as they could. It felt like just like that was just snap over chapter 2. And I immediately looked at this baby and thought, like, what if I die, right? Like you're just confronted with your own mortality quickly. So that was that. And I am, again, so blessed. I want to just say, like, you can live in both worlds of feeling blessed and also like, holy cow, that was a lot. And that really, for lack of a better word, sucked. But like, I know that like for anybody, any family affected by cancer, like I'm on the other side and not a day is lost that I don't think how grateful I am to have made it to the other side. I thought there was a moment where maybe my cancer was going to be cancer light, as I joked. I was like, oh, maybe I'll just get away with like a little surgery. But with my age and, cancer's not something you mess with. I got the full package. So that included surgery, chemo, radiation. We have pictures of my husband had short hair. He shaved his head, and me and my 5-month-old and my husband were just all bald with the little baby's butt. And that was okay. We just kind of charged ahead. That took about a year. I did fertility preservation because that was the one that was like, I know I want to have more kids. Right? Like this is going to curveball it, but it's not going to stop it. Right? Recovery. I remember saying I was barely out of radiation and I was like, said to my oncologist, so do you think I'm ready to try to get pregnant again? She was like, wonderfully like, no, you need to, like, your body is just give it a minute. Right. But when you want to expand your family, everybody in this community knows you want it yesterday.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, okay. So first of all, let's go back for a second. So you find out you have cancer and you have a newborn. She's 5 months. What did that look like from there? I know you have to go to the hospital a lot. Your husband, was he working? What did that look like with a baby?
It's so interesting because I think when you say there's an element, you only know what you know, right? So I thank goodness didn't have anything to compare it to, but it is definitely like now it's this realization, like when I see 5 months old, I look back at us like, oh my gosh, we were babies. How did we get through that? My husband suddenly has a newborn, adjustment for him. He's working and now he has a very sick wife. Like I was, not well, right? It's like, it's a challenge. And the doctor's appointments, I don't even know how we did it. My family I don't live close to my family. They're on the East Coast. My sister was in London at the time. She's very close with her. I've got a brother in Boston, but my mom and sister behind the scenes were flying in, right? Every other third week or something. So I had folks, we had support networks, but I always described it as like, it felt like I had a team, like an army behind me, but like you're going into a battle by yourself.
Yeah.
And I was like, nobody can do this for me.
Right.
I think some peace actually came with appointments. Appointments give you structure, right? Like, so as much as it was overwhelming, I had something to anchor a schedule. We also had just hired who I truly, if you believe in universe and science, I call the Mary Poppins of nannies.
Oh my
this woman, she was 22 at the time. She was sent from the universe above. I can picture her floating in and she just was so gracious. She knew it. She'd been here for like 3 weeks and I had to be like, oh, by the way, I have breast cancer. I'm going to be like lying in bed sick well, you take care of my daughter and figure it out. And she just helped, right? Like, so we could not have done it without childcare because it just can't. Like, there were times like I couldn't even hold Dory because I just felt so sick, right?
Yeah.
But I say to Dory, because like, you know, the gremlins in your head can be powerful voices, right? Your head can work in amazing ways when you focus, but like when you're on medicine and chemo and you're down and you're bald and you have a newborn and you're alone in your apartment with your thoughts, those gremlins can run away. And I would stare at Dory every night and I would just say like, you're getting me through this, right? Like you just look at this, like, and I would constantly say when people were like, how are you doing it with a newborn? I would actually say, I don't know how folks do it with like an 8-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old. Who have to explain, mommy's losing her hair. Mommy can't take you to the park. She's going to be sleeping because she's really like sleeping heels, right? And I kept saying like, I have this angel who will never know, one, that she saved me, right? Giving me that inspiration of like, I'm not going to die because I can't, right? And God willing, I came out the other side and she just slept through it. Right? One time she did say to me, and this is why I knew it was such a beautiful place, and I definitely worked through the emotions with it, with counselors at different times to support and process, because there's just a lot to just digest and be at peace with. And I remember Dory saw a picture of her and Emily, her nanny at the time, who she, had for like the first year of her life. And she was like 3 or 4 at the time. She was like, oh my gosh, I remember that. Remember when Nanny Emily was my mommy? I say that, and I say that laughing because normally you think that would crush you, right? And like, oh, that's right. And I was like, Dory, just so you know, she was the nanny, and goodness gracious, aren't we lucky? Because Nanny Emily was basically your mommy for a little bit, right? And we just laughed, and I texted Emily right away to be like, thank God you are in our lives, that this child just had the cohesiveness of like seeing like, oh, I just got to dance and sing and do all those fun things with Emily.
Does Dory know the whole story now?
Oh, yes. Oh, gosh.
She does.
I am an open book. It's the only way we can lead. And we share, and the girls, and I have a little scar. And even Emmy now is like, what's that from? I'm like, oh, Mommy has some work on her boobs. A little, I have to go to the doctor. We're very open about it and proud of it. And also, cancer is so scary to kids. And, unfortunately, our lives have been touched by other families who've been affected by cancer. And I think in those situations, like I share because people will see me, and I've had friends say to their kids, like, Mrs. Shanahan once went through it, right? It's okay. Like when there's going to be a positive outcome, because there are those stories. And so, yeah, Dory goes to school very proud of, during Breast Cancer Awareness Month and sharing her story. And we celebrate the day. The April 15th was the day that I found the diagnosis, and we call it like Family Appreciation Day. And we're just like, this is a great day.
So we're in April right now. How many years have you been, do you call
11.
it cancer-free?
11.
11 years. And do you say cancer-free or in remission?
I say cancer-free. For some reason, I say cancer-free. And I don't even know what the clinical term is at this point. And like remission for me, it just gives me like, for me, I'm just like, nope, because it's like, it's still there. I'm like, no, it's gone.
Right. It's
like,
gone.
We got rid of it. Like, it's over. Those unwanted squatters have like left the building.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And so I'm going to quote you. I read this somewhere. You said, the years after treatment consisted of steadily regaining my sense of how I belonged to the world. A life-threatening diagnosis can both affirm and rock your core beliefs. And for me, it unlocked a sense of searching and restlessness. Tell me more about this sense of belonging to the world and where that led you. That's so beautiful, Kate.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I love hearing, because I'm like, oh, I forgot when I, shared that. But it is true that like I feel like I'm a driven person. I always kind of knew, like, I've worked in fashion, I've worked in education. I just really enjoyed my life experience, right? And then I got sick. And I had a long sort of like off road to it because my treatment continued. I had some sort of like monthly treatments afterwards. So it wasn't like I was just put back into the world. So I kind of got to gradually release back into the world. And I was like, it felt like a rebirth, honestly. Like I was like, almost like an existential, like, who am I? Why? Like, how does this story shape me? Does it belong? Like, I had to determine my relationship with it. And with that came like questioning my career, not in a bad way, in an introspective way, right? Like, I wasn't like, oh, I don't want to do this. My job is unfulfilling. It was more like what used to fulfill me isn't feeding that in the same way. And I wrestled with that for a very long time. Like, just still in my career, maybe it was a different project or a different this or a different that, but something, I would say, until, fast forward present tense with where I am now, I'm like, all of it is lined up. And I think that restlessness just left me really unsteady, right? Because you count on that, like that you know what you do in your job and you feel good and this, and that's how I like having a place in the world that is my own, with a career and a profession. And when that got rocked, and what was really I struggled with is like I felt like I was on a linear path. Doing this role, I knew the next step. I wanted to go this way, and then suddenly I didn't want that.
Yeah.
Then I was like, are my aspirations changing? And then I was like, it's not your aspirations. You're just you might not be on the right seat of the bus, but actually I realized I wasn't on the right bus. Right? Anymore.
Wow. I mean, how many people out there listening right now I have chills because I know so many people can relate to that statement. Maybe you're just not on the right bus. Do you think that you just started becoming more intentional with the things that you chose to do afterwards and how you did them?
Again, I sit here from a place of privilege that I get to be introspective, right?
Yeah.
And like, I know that. And so it's grounded in this absolutely like fun. I didn't shy away from it. It scared me. I could have shut it down and been like, nope, just go, ignore those voices in your head. But I invited them, right? And I sat with them. And sitting with uncomfortable feelings, very difficult, especially for a type A person who just wants to go. And so I sat and explored and just let them marinate. And I would, sometimes they'd be louder. And I'd say to my husband, like, I don't know what I'm doing. What do I do? And this and that. And just that is, I think I invited the inquiry and was okay with not having the answer. Right. But never gave up that, like, just continue to like pull the sweater, right? Like you have to keep inviting this to get to a place of where you feel like at peace and comfortable. And also knowing that things change. Like I felt like I was like failing or giving up on myself, that I was like, oh, I no longer want to be this role in my ex, which I thought was, and I'm okay with that, right?
Yeah.
And that can be really uncomfortable.
So your girls are like 7 years apart, is that right?
Yeah.
So at what point did you decide, okay, now's the time? Like that was a long period there.
Yes, and I would say I would be lying if I get to come out the other side and we have this, we're where we're supposed to be, right? But like, just because my journey has led me here, like there were many a tears, many a Googling, how many years between siblings is too much. Like I remember panicking that, like saying like, oh, now Dory's 4, now Dory's 4.5, now Dory's 5, now Dory's 6. And then every calculation, I would do an IVF, it wouldn't take. I would then naturally get pregnant on my own. And then 3 months later have a miscarriage. And that would set us back. And this is another year if I got pregnant. It was like so just consuming of that. And now again, hindsight 2020, I look back, I'm like, gosh, it's 7 years. Like it's what seems loud when they're young is nothing. And like, there's such a beauty for them. Like it was meant to be Emmy the whole time. And I will say we started, like I said, I went into my oncologist, about the day I was done, like, oh, am I ready to go? Cause in my head, I was like, well, she's 2.5 and 9 months, all that. And then, we really started from 2000, and it was about 3 full years, maybe 3.5, of just try, reset, failure, reset. And then I would say, we're done. Go into adoption. Like, that's it. We know we want to expand our family. Let's do that. Not that that was a backup, but I always knew that that was an avenue. And I was like, let's explore it. We're in. And then I get pregnant. And I was like, we're not supposed to be. Like, I couldn't pull both at the same time. It was just too much. And so finally, and I will say this, like, I don't add this for a flair for drama. I think I add this because it was the reality. And maybe there's like a gift that comes when you turn 40, but it was the eve of my 40th birthday. And I knew it. I was like, I got to go in. I had the ultrasound. It was the 3rd time, same doctor, same office, same visit that we had walked in, no heartbeat. You're done. Walk out. Crestfallen. And I was like, maybe not this time. Went in, eve of my 40th, same thing, no heartbeat, walked out. And I came home and it was actually like, disappointing and crying and all of those things, but it just calmed me. And I said, it's over. I'm done. My body this is not our path. And that was, my birthday's on December 6th. And my husband, we had gone to Mass at Old St. Pat's, downtown Chicago, and you were giving, like, we saw the bulletin, we'd been there at noon, and he was like, saw the adoption seminar that evening, and Becca, I had just been through a little bit, but I was like, I don't have it in me to go back to the city tonight. And he goes, that's when I knew we were both all in, because you have to be in together at the same time, and he goes, you stay here, I'm just going to go down and check it out. He came home that night, was like, RG Adoption Consulting, this woman is great, we got to do it. So January 2nd, we had a call with you, we signed up, and never looked back. And it was the single best decision we've ever made when it comes to our whole journey in expanding. Operation Family Expansion, you're a part of the plan. And once we I never looked back again, in terms of like my body, should we, it's just, this is what our path is.
Okay. I mean, I'm getting chills. Now I have tears in my eyes and it's just, ooh. And you know what? So many of us have stories like this, each of them so unique. It makes me want to go back and talk to every single one of my families because we don't always, we get to know each other intimately through the process, but there's still so much that we don't know. And you brought up that you wanted to start right away and you were going through all this infertility and miscarriage and that you knew enough not to go down both paths at the same time because it was just so much. Like what you were going through was so much to add another route. And I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people ask, can I do both at one time? And it's not that you can't.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. And each journey deserves its own full attention because they're both big journeys. So I'm glad you knew enough to really focus on where you were and then pivot.
Yeah. And it was always there. And like I said, it was never like, I worry when I communicate this, like, oh, adoption was our backup plan. It wasn't that. It was like, it was always there, but you're right. Like, and again, I consider myself a highly productive and capable person. I was like, I can't push both these big things forward at the same time, to your point of they both deserve such attention that it just for us, it was one or the other. And
this whole idea of a backup plan, I think we can do a whole podcast alone on that. I don't know if it's a bad thing, if it's just bad wording, if it's, we as women, many of us have this dream of we were made to carry a baby. And that's the way we have always dreamed about becoming a mom. And if that doesn't work and then you go toward adoption, what is that? Some call it a backup plan. Some call it a plan B. Some call it another avenue to be, whatever the wording is. I think it all is kind of the same thing for many of us, not for everybody. And so I don't know, one day I'll do a whole thing on that and the wording around that.
And I agree. Like, that's where I think you're right. It's almost like you're programmed. Programmed. Like, this is how it's supposed to go. So any departure from that, I'd even talk for people with IVF who are uncomfortable. Like, it's just interesting of like, I see now, and I never felt like you have to come to peace with your own path and your own journey. And I'm like, I can look back now, I'm like, it was meant to be this whole time. Right. And I almost think it's just deprogramming yourself to and we just knew our North Star was like, we would ask ourselves, are we done? Are we done? Plenty of families. And I felt I would happily join the podcast too of secondary infertility. It is like, so the guilt that you feel because people don't have any children and you have one, but you want more. I mean, it's just the whole complex layers of that as well. And we would look at each other and like we just both would know, even when it was the hardest of the hard. And I'd say, are we done? And we'd close our eyes and we're like, no, the family's not done. So then we were like, that's all that matters. Our family is out there. And now I'm like, I think adoption, obviously, I will never be able to speak to it because I've not been in those shoes. We've talked about that. Like Emmy's experience is her own experience. But like for us, it's just such a beautiful way of families coming together and weaving individual stories into rich, beautiful lives. So I just feel so blessed to be a part of that world.
When you started your adoption journey, what drove your decisions when you decided on the criteria? And for those that don't know, you're asked what your criteria is, for lack of a better word. You're asked what race you're open to, what races you're open to, what genders you're open to, what ages you're open to. Are you open to substance exposure? Are you open to XYZ? So what drove those decisions for you when you were deciding? Before we go on, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go away. We still have so much to talk about. The Adoption Roadmap podcast is sponsored by the Adoption Roadmap Academy, the only online program of its kind for hopeful adoptive parents like you who want step-by-step guidance, preparing for your home study, creating a compelling adoption profile book, choosing the right agencies, and more so that you can bring your baby home sooner. As an adoption consultant and adoptive mom who's been where you are, I'm going to guide you step by step through everything you need to know about the domestic infant adoption journey from home study to finalization. And the great part is you get to do it at your own pace with a supportive community behind you. The Adoption Roadmap Academy is a step-by-step guide to domestic infant adoption for hopeful individuals and families who are sick and tired of waiting forever. It's the first and only self-paced, adoption consultant-led program that shows you exactly how to navigate the domestic adoption process from home study to finalization. With our proven 4-step adoption roadmap model, you're going to be able to save time you can't make up, hours and weeks and even months of tedious legwork and research are done for you. You're going to be able to go at your own pace. No matter what else is going on in life, nobody's going to be breathing down your throat. You are going to be able to gain and keep momentum because everything is going to be spoon-fed for you in exactly the way you need. You are going to possibly even save money by knowing how to vet situations and working with the right agencies. It could save you a lot of heartache. You are going to be able to access this course anytime, anywhere, and get expert guidance and support, not only by me, but also by an amazing community who know exactly what you are walking through. Here's what you can expect inside. You'll be getting streaming videos, worksheets, bonus resources, an adoption profile creation, agency contacts, live streams to connect with other people, and unending education, all using our 4-step proprietary adoption roadmap model. Plus, you'll be receiving a bonus mindset step that I highly recommend for everyone. So if you're interested in starting your adoption journey and ready to fast forward and simplify your domestic adoption process, please email the word academy to support@rgadoptionconsulting.com today, and we'll get you started. So what drove those decisions for you when you were deciding?
Yeah, I think this is such a great question, and it's a complex question too, because I think people are in a position that you just never thought you'd be in, to have these conversations and have this dialogue. And I was like, North Star, happy, healthy child, right? You can't guarantee that if you get pregnant on your own or any avenue of how you expand your family. But it was actually really, I did not know, again, why you can't push both things. You have to learn, you have to do research. Mm-hmm. What are different exposures? What are the risks? What are the different pieces here? How do you get comfortable with knowing very little information and knowing enough of what you're equipped for? So props to Rachel, who again will always live in my heart, the consultant that we worked with after we initially worked with you and then we worked with Rachel. Mm-hmm. And I remember, so when it came to, and again, I know that I could get pushback for this too, because there's a lot of thoughts about transracial adoption and this, and I was very much, we did not, at the gender or race did not matter to us, right? Like we wanted a healthy child in our family, right? So boy, girl, any race we were open to. And I know that, sometimes folks can think that is just like naive or ignorant to lead into. It didn't mean that I was being like closed off to the fact that there's like different opportunities and challenges that come from being a white family adopting outside your race. Mm-hmm. It just meant I'm going to throw myself into learning what that could be like. We had a boy. I know nothing about that. Yeah. But I'm committed to learning, right? So that was very open to us. When we came down to exposure, Rachel was really smart to be like, because I was like, I think we can handle anything. And then she was like, just pause and actually take the time, because like we had a biological daughter. We're now like, not that age does not matter, but I am not the young fried chicken that I was all those years ago. I am older. We knew certain stresses that we had just been through for, I would say, chronically for the past 4+ years of just wear and tear emotionally on your body. So it's like, I need to be equipped. How can we be best equipped for whatever child comes into our life? And so that's where Rachel really guided in terms of like, let's break it down of what exposure could lead to and where you are best equipped. And the same came with like a history of if there was, a certain level of mental illness, like, are we the best equipped people? Because I don't have a background I've got a background in a lot of things, but I don't have a background in other areas. Mm-hmm. And we had to have an honest conversation of putting our desire and that beautiful, but often misleading conception of like, love is enough. It's like, yeah, love absolutely is the foundation. And if you're going to knowingly go into a situation that you are ill-educated for, ill-equipped for, or ill-prepared for, nobody wins. right? And so that's where when it came to exposure, we were like open, but with parameters, with what we learned about.
Do you think that when you made the decision that you were open to all races, that you were naive? Or did you know that, what you were doing, what you were saying yes to, or?
And that's a great question. It's a fair question, and it's a real question. And I would say there's an element of like, the second I think I know what I'm doing, or any of us know what we're doing, like that's your fall down, right? Like I embrace, like I know enough. And I've always been, one of the things I'm very good at is knowing what I don't know. Right. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, I don't know this and but I know I need to supplement that. Right. So finding the resources or figuring it out. I will say that I would be like wrong to say like, no, I wasn't naive. Of course it was. Like, we're all naive because I'm in a different place now. So I think at the time I knew, I was like, we live in a very white community. This will be different. This is something that we are going to, if we adopt outside of our race, we are going to have to really immerse ourselves and challenge ourselves and know what we don't know and experience that. I think that's something that my husband and I were like, that we know and can take on and embrace.
And I think that's part of what I was asking you too. You weren't naive enough to not know that it would be a challenge. You were up for it. You would have a lot of learning to do. You would need to make, like, it was an intentional decision. And no, but that's good. I think that there's naive and there's naive, right?
Yeah.
And I think some people are just like, oh, I'm open to everything. I love everybody. And not even realize that it might rock their world a little bit.
And it's in service of your child. Like I take it, and again, continue. It's almost like continuing ed. Like I took classes, especially, I did examining like your white bias, and like I've just thrown myself into classes to really just invite the experience. And it is like you never graduate from that, right? Every development and stage that Emmy grows up is going to be a new development and stage that we need to sort of grow together. And there's things coming my way that I know that I don't even know, and I'm going to have to embrace that and continue to figure it out. But so I think you're right in terms of naive of like, we can conquer anything. And even then knowing it, I mean, there's a heaviness that came sometimes with thinking about like that, because there's a world that can have really strong opinions, and it's like you have to be aware of that, but you also can't take it on, But there's, even when you're prepared, you're not prepared, and you just have to keep embracing communities and learning and knowing that you're going to do the best that you can.
Yeah. So far in your journey, you are just saying what you're open to, right? You don't know what's going to come yet. But once you did find out that you would possibly be adopting a Black child in your white family, in your white community, how did you prepare for that?
We got a call. We were away Labor Day weekend. You're in northern Wisconsin, and the agency called a Utah number, which I'm so glad, you answer every phone call when you're in the experience, but I didn't think anybody was going to call, and they said, a baby, I honestly think they said a baby had been born. They might have said a baby girl, but I was just like, heard baby, and like, a baby has been born. We're only going to present, I know you said you were interested, we're only presenting folks to the birth mom, because she came a little early, who could be in Atlanta tomorrow. We're in like northern Wisconsin. Anything can be done. I just said yes. My husband was like, who's on the phone? I was like, yep, we can be there tomorrow. So I just said, yes, we'll be there. FYI, we kept this one close to the vest. Like for this, so Tim, we were with his family. They didn't even know. So we're in the parking lot of this restaurant. I'm all animated because that's how I talk with my hands. They think we're in some big blowout. What are they having a big fight about? I'm like, no. So then we had to go in and be like, couple of things. We are in the adoption process. We just got a phone call. We will be potentially going to Atlanta tomorrow. And that's why we were, sort of conferring. They called back that night. The birth mom, she's seen our book, everything. She's chosen you. Said we'll be there tomorrow. And so with that, then I remember saying, wait, Sharon, who's our contact there, is it a boy or a girl? I hadn't even processed. So we were that just baby here. And then we knew I remembered who it was. So I knew that she was Black. Little girl. And then we immediately were just in logistic mode, right?
You don't even have time to prepare.
I said, hey guys, I can't share all the stuff, but they kind of, my closest folks knew. I said, I just need an infant car seat on my porch tomorrow by 2:00. We came home. Dory was at 6 at the time. I said, we're going to Atlanta. It's going to be hot. I don't know how long we're there for. Pack a bag. She, ironically, as a 6-year-old, was the only one who packed a thing and was like, oh, hot? I'll throw on a swimsuit, which was a great idea. Him and I had like one outfit that I wore the whole time. We stopped at a Target to pick up necessities, but all those things. And then we quickly realized, like, that's what I said I've said this before, like, I had done all the things and you're kind of cautious, optimistic of like when it'll happen. I love that our situation was a Stork drop because it was just what we needed. The processing, everything. We were just all in and still so anxious and on eggshells, like, will it work? Will everything happen? We did have a beautiful opportunity to meet her birth mom and all that's a whole other experience and beautiful journey. But with that was when I was like, I don't know anything about her hair, her skin, how to take care of this, right? So I just the wheels started turning of like, yep, as soon as after I'm holding this baby and I'm back in Chicago, I need to learn, I need to ask, I need to get programmed in to like preparing for those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then also like, here we go, like, who's our support with this is a whole new world and this is going to be big for us. And I also remember like coming to terms with like, I felt like when we were in Atlanta for those 2 weeks while you have to wait for process or whatever, it was Easter, we went to mass and had a beautiful newborn. And I was like, are people looking at me, like judging us? I was worried about the optics of other people. And that was such an interesting, again, inviting that uncomfortable feeling where I was like, wait, what am I caring about? Like worried about, right? And then that's where I was like, this is our family. We need to embrace what we're uncomfortable with. And and like other people's perceptions. And you just kind of realize that you're going to be kind of like inundated with that and those thoughts. And you can't bury them. You explore them and you figure them out, right?
So were you surprised by that? Were you surprised by like recognizing, oh, I think people are looking, how do I feel about this? People are looking.
I was surprised, again, like I was surprised by the insecurity that I felt in myself. Like I had always felt really confident as a mom. So like I wasn't, concerned about that. Like some new moms are like, oh gosh, I don't know what I'm doing with baby cries. I'm like, no, like I never worried about that. I was very struck by how much I felt that and realized how much that was a me thing. And that was an interesting, again, the first thing of like, I'm not going to do right by this child or this family if I'm not getting comfortable with my own, like my own in feelings of being inadequate. Like, are the people who think as a white mom, I don't know how to care for a Black child. Like just all of this.
Did you question whether you could?
I questioned whether I never questioned whether I could. So no. So like, not that I'm like, I know, I'm confident, I know this. I don't shy away from things that are uncomfortable, but I was curious why I cared so much what other people thought, right? And particularly in Black communities, as a white mom, caring for a Black child, I was like, this was like a me thing of like making sure I'm seeking approval, right? And seeking that like, I'm doing it okay. One, that there's a healthy level of like, I don't know what I don't know. So tell me, like any time I have an opportunity, someone will be open with me. I'm like, please don't like sugarcoat it. Just tell me, like, I want to make sure I'm exposing and communicating in a way. But this was like, and also I think there's a thing, like, I think you do experience some postpartum, even with adoption when you're not, there's like theories of that too. Like you experience the emotional hormones and highs and lows. So I know I was like on totally like uneven footing too, but I was just very surprised that like I was worried that I was doing something wrong. And that was like, I'm like, get out of your head, figure it out. This is your journey. This is your family. And like, you might, like, that's just going to be a reality that you have to come to terms with, So I just really think when you're in a position where you adopt outside your race, like you can't make your stuff their stuff. Right. And you can't, and you have to really just be like, where am I at with this? Why am I hesitating or nervous or say this and that? Examine it and just own it, because your hesitancy is going to translate to your child being like, why is mom like awkward in this moment? And that is what I'm so like, holy cow, I bring to the table like a lot of like, I'm a white privilege, but I need to own that, but then not let it like affect my family dynamic. Right. But leading with that, like my experience is not the same as Emmy's experience. Right. But I also can't project that. I need to invite her and be a part of that without, my stuff becoming her stuff.
Yeah.
Very complicated answer or long answer to these things that I think the absence of wrestling with.
It's layered. It's complex. It's complex. I wanted to talk about Stork drop for a second for anyone who doesn't know what Stork drop means. And I'll tell you another name I heard for it, which I really love. Hey there, Adoption Roadmap fam. Are you ready to take the next step on your journey to parenthood? If so, head over to our website and take our quiz. It's called, Are You Ready to Adopt? It's not just about testing your knowledge, It's about making sure you're emotionally and practically prepared for the beautiful, complex journey of adoption. Let's make your dream of parenthood a reality. Go to rgadoptionconsulting.com and take the Are You Ready to Adopt quiz today. That's rgadoptionconsulting.com. The quiz is free, and it will let you know where you are in the process and if you're ready to jump into your adoption journey. That's when a baby is born and you get a call saying, a baby was born, come and get your baby. That's a Stork drop where the baby's already born. I heard another adoption worker call it an angel drop, and I love that.
Yeah. It's just right. Not your traditional match, have that period of time. It's here we are.
And some people love that. We love that as professionals. And some people are like, no, I need preparation. I need time to think. But tell me let's move on to what you're doing now. Tell me about the birth of Sweet Peachtree Marketplace.
Yeah, well, you shared it so eloquently in the introduction. And so I tell the story of, like I said, you're prepared. And some of it is like safeguarding your emotions, of like protecting yourself, right? Until it happens, you can't get too far ahead of yourself, right? So, but I quickly realized, like I said, I held this beautiful baby and I just was overwhelmed with, again, some of the emotional complexities of race and that, but also like simply, I don't know necessarily how to take care of her beautiful skin and hair, right? Like I know enough, like her hair is going to be dry. She's going to have textured hair. She's going to need more moisture, but like not knowing that, right? So here I am Googling, and I would hear little things. I'm always very attuned, snippets and different things. I'm like, bonnet, you need a bonnet for a baby. And actually went to a seminar again. Like I was like, I don't know. Here I have a newborn, and Tamikia Swint. Last name. From Styles for Kids.
Say that again. Say that.
It's
Tamikia Swint.
Yeah, thank you. So Tamikia Swint from Styles for Kids was hosting a class at Adoption Center of Illinois that I signed up for and took Emmy. Again, she was like a newborn, but this whole class was about why it's important. And I hope she's okay with me sharing this, but she shared it in a public space, but she goes, I got to tell you, whether you like it or not, you are going to be judged by how her hair and her skin look. And it imprinted. And I was like, and she goes, it is so important culturally to her experience, and also just to the Black community and to her growing up, how you are able to care for her hair and skin. And I was like, this is something hands-on that I need to start learning about tomorrow. And then she also shared with me, you will be judged. And this is what I then came home and I was like, people are going to know that Emmy is adopted fairly quickly when they see us pose as a family. But I'll be damned if it's from her hair and her skin.
Hell yeah.
It's not going to be because of that. So that's when the real journey and preparation began. And then what started Sweet Peachtree was, I'm Googling, I'm figuring, Tamika said this, so I need to figure out, okay, bonnets, silk sheets. And I'm Googling, and I've shared this story a couple times, that there was a large e-commerce site that I frequent that I Googled, and I know the algorithms know I'm a white mom in suburbia, whatnot, but I typed in bonnets for Black baby, very specific. That was my search. And what popped up was cute as could be, but a white Caucasian baby wearing a bonnet. First of all, I was like, I didn't know that was something that would be needed in the white community, but I could not believe that in my search specifically for a Black bonnet and the resources that I was looking for was coming up just like a sea of options. I couldn't figure out what was right, wrong, up, down, and talked to who's the co-founder at the time, good friend, Tasha, who has she's Black, she has teenage children at the time. And I was like, Tasha, you got to level with me. I'm searching. I don't know what I'm doing here. And I can't find anything. She was, it's ridiculous. I can never find stuff. I'll type in something and, she would just a white person will pop up. And I'm like, what? That's not going to solve my problem. She was like, the search continues. And then she goes, you find a product that works, but you don't need it for 3 more months. And then you can't remember where you got it. And I was like, Tasha, I'm overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed. And you've been doing this your whole life. I'm overwhelmed. Why isn't there just a spot that you're going to get, it's going to be natural, it's going to be effective, it's going to work. It's just a spot for these products that are going to work. And she was like, I don't know. And then just like that, we were like, let's do it. And then we just, blind faith, started this with the mission of we want to provide access and education of like, you can't go wrong, right? Like, I can't fix your technique. I can't teach you that. We can convene folks to help with that. That's what we're looking to do and continue to expand that network. But I can guarantee you're not going to be led astray. Whatever you choose from this site is not going to harm your child. In fact, it's going to help their skin, help their hair. It's going to promote because of the ingredients, the people, the makers, all of the makers that we source from and curate products from. Every single one happens to be Black owned, small business. Half of the partners started because they were solving a problem. One woman, eczema for her kids. Nothing worked. Created it. That's what she started with. And now she has a skincare line. And this is our bestseller. It's the Oliver Balm. And it's like a cure-all. And so that's what we wanted to start, right? And I vacillate with like, we will need everything here. And I'm like, nope, focus on the families like ours who just are overwhelmed. They need to learn the technique. They need to learn the salon visits. Right now, they just need to know, because there's so many choices out there, that they can start at any moment with 1 or 2, 3 things that are going to get their babies, their toddlers, even their 5 to 7 to teenagers in the right spot by using products that don't damage the skin. And we know Black skin is more prone to scarring, more prone to dryness. Hair can be more susceptible to breakage. So like, these are things where it's not just about the product, it's actually about building confidence, because your skin and your hair are taken care of and nourished and healthy.
I love that. I mean, talk about determination, girl. You are like, there is a need. I don't know where to find it, so I'm going to start it. Why Sweet Peachtree?
Well, it's just so funny. So I've been to Atlanta a couple times, but I have not spent a ton of time in Atlanta. And we had the beautiful experience of that. Emmy was born there, and we stayed there for, like I said, almost 3 weeks with just waiting for the paperwork and the things. And it was actually the most beautiful time. When else do you get to just be transplanted by this unit? We knew, everyone normally, like, you have a baby and everyone comes over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we still look back at that, the 4 of us. I mean, and Emmy's like, when I was a baby, but we're like, that was magical.
Yeah.
Right? Came with its own complications and
I hope people hear that. That's what
amazing.
I say too. Yeah. I hope people really hear that. That is a magical time.
And you feel like, oh, it's overwhelming, we're displaced. Nope. And we, obviously we had a daughter, so we had to bring her. She missed school. It was the best experience for her. I wish every family could have it in some way, or shape or form. But so Sweet Peachtree, so we're driving around, no idea where we're going half the time. Every street in Atlanta is a version of Peachtree. Peachtree Lane, Peachtree Drive, Peachtree this. And when I started this with Tasha, I said, you just toy with me here. It's got to be something Peachtree. It's just, it's not locked. Like, she's the inspiration. This speaks to me. And then so we just toyed around with Sweet Peachtree. And that's what it is. Homage to the great Atlanta and the peaches that.
What a beautiful story. So Sweet Peachtree, you source products in one place, and you also have products created, I believe, right? Yes. So what criteria do you use to ensure that a product that you source is effective and true to your mission? And how do you create your products? Yeah.
It's a great question. So it's really important to me, like, 2 things. I think in my experience with my health hiccup years ago, tuned me into like clean products, right? But when it comes to like choices for hair and skin, and I know there's effective products that are literally made and tried and true from the beginning of time with, sources that are natural, like, that's what we're going for, right? And so we look for I look for non-toxic and natural ingredients. I look back and I'm always curious and interested in the story behind the maker, right? And the partner, because for what is important to me is like really understanding if this person knows the problem they're solving, right? And has tried the product and really like gets it, and I have found the products that we use and the partners that we have, like, I love, email and text with them regularly, and I know their stories. I understand and I believe in their products. And here's the biggest thing. They have to work, right? I can love these fabulous makers and want to support, but they have to work. And so I am constantly using them on Emmy, my own family, because there is an element of like, I want to bring this inclusive experience, right? Like, certain products are better for her, but like, we're all using the body butters now. because that's what we do. And those work more effectively for her skin. It's not semi stuff. We really make this inclusive experience, but knowing that these products are working for her. So I'm sourcing for natural. I'm making sure that the story aligns, that this product is actually one that folks know is going to work, and then that it does work. And we're constantly testing with other folks. What do you think? What do you like? Does it effective? To really make sure. And I mean, we're small enough that I'm only putting some things out there that I know I would trust. When someone's like, well, which one? I'm like, honestly, at this point, it's aesthetic. This one's going to give you this. Do you like that spray bottle, or do you prefer this? Do you want a lotion or a serum? Easier to put on your baby's body or your wiggly toddler's body, because anything there is going to work in a way that I feel I stand behind. That's my biggest fear. My biggest fear is someone's going to call and be like, this didn't work. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it. But that is what I live and breathe by, to make sure that I can stand behind everything that we're, celebrating.
Yeah.
And yes, for the products that we market, we have, some select partners that are experts in making and the ingredients, and have been gracious enough to share their special sauce, to say, this is what I want to do. I want to bring this. I believe in your product. I've only chosen a few that I know work so amazingly well to really elevate and bring this to as many families like us as possible. So we do have our Sweet Peachtree line, which I'm so excited about.
So beautiful. Congratulations on that. How has the response been?
It's exciting. It's good. I am constantly testing and thirsty for feedback, not talking to other folks, because again, I know my experience, I know the small sample size, but I've shared before that there are about 41 adoptions annually, are families that are white families adopting a child of color. There's 41 families each year that are embracing this. Some are going to be very much more well-equipped. They're like, I don't need any of this. Some are going to be like me. I suspect more out there than not are like me, who are overwhelmed. And I am continually just talking with, I love talking with people. People have called me and been like, okay, just tell me, my son's hair is like this. His curls are tight. I just can't get them to take shape. I'm like, okay, here's what I think you need. Tell me more about it. Let's try this. And then 10 days later, are ordering the same products again, because they're like, I love it. Now my husband's using it. Now that. And so the response has been great. And my goal is just to help support in that process, so folks are feeling more in command and a role model for their child, and feeling empowered by that. So yeah, it's been great. And I just want to continue to reach more folks in the service of helping and making folks feel like they can do what they need to do to get started on this journey.
That's awesome. I love it. I love everything about this. What do you think is a common misconception around transracial adoption? This is just totally subjective, right? And this comes from, I've been really curious about the adult experience. Right. And so I have started, read a bunch of books and taken webinars and, different certifications in areas, right? By continuing to learn about this. But the perspective of the adult, adoptee, looking back on their family. And it's interesting because a lot of perspectives are, I had a great upbringing. My parents loved me. I know I was supported and loved. And the absence of dialogue made me feel alone, made me feel isolated. I first realized that I wasn't alone because I found a Facebook group when I was 17, right? Or when I went to college. I think the misconception is that there can be a danger in, like I said, not inviting this stuff, the complicated stuff, and just that misconception, it sounds so cliche, but love is enough. I'm like, I know, you have to have love. Every family needs to have love as a foundation, and it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be messy, but you have to be in the mess with your child, right? I can't live her experience for her, but I can be beside her, right? And I can be there all the time for that dialogue. So I think the misconception could be that you can just love it away, and love through some of those things. And I'm not discounting that. Love is important, but I'm also 100% discounting that is enough, right? And then on the same side, I think there's a misconception too, and I struggle with this. I advise people find your communities, find your resources, but also it's okay to be selective, because there can be a lot of negativity that I have at times been do we have to move? Should we move? Yeah. Do I need to be in an area that is more, and again, that's a knee-jerk reaction, moving, and just, again, I could live in a community that is more representative of families like ours, and the absence of dialogue would still not help, right? And so it's just, I think sometimes the opposite end of the pendulum is that it's hard, it's terrible, and your child's going to come out with, not feeling good, or they belong, and I don't believe that. My only goal is that Emmy feels her world
as an adoptee, as a Black woman, as a woman, that those strands don't feel like three separate silos, but rather like braided together. I like visualize it, like braided together in a cohesive story. So when she goes to college, she feels like she can relate to the Black community. She can relate to the white community. She can relate to the adoption community, and she can just relate as being like a person who grew up in a loving family. Like those are my goals for her.
Those are great goals and hefty goals, right? They're not easy
I'll
goals.
Let you know how it turns out.
Yeah, we'll know in about 15 years.
Exactly.
How can people find you, Kate?
Well, we are on Instagram. That's probably the most visible way to find us if you're looking for social media, which again is in part about our story, in part about why, the mission, with some educational pieces. So that is Sweet Peachtree Market. That's the Instagram handle. And then the website is just sweetpeachtree.com.
I love it. I'm going to ask you a couple rapid response questions that you weren't able to prepare for.
I love it. I love it.
What's been your proudest moment as an adoptive mom?
You know, I would say, I've told this story so quickly. Emmy now, there was a moment where she shared with me at bedtime that she said, I don't like my skin. I don't want to be brown. I want to be white. And it nearly broke my heart. And we've worked so much about talking about this, identifying that's developmentally appropriate. She literally wants to be like the people in the room that she sees every day, and recognizing that like something about the way she looks, she's not feeling good about it. And I need to change that. And now I think my proudest moment right now, because I'm living in the present, is Emmy, if she's watching a TV show and there's a cartoon with a girl who has pups, she's like, Mom, Powerpuff, love that. Mom, beautiful girl with brown skin. To the point where like she has rolled down the window, pointed at billboards, pointed at people, pointed at the crossing guard, screaming, hello, you have beautiful brown skin. And I love this because she's so absolutely proud. And it's just, it's like a turning point that I'm like, dialogue for her is going to be important, and celebrating and just understanding that she's absolutely beautiful because of who she is. Don't try to be like Mom. Don't try to be like your sister. You be you, girl. And we're gonna keep building on that.
Biggest failure as a mom?
Gosh, wait, where do I start? I would say there is definitely an impatience that I sometimes have, but it is like this urgency. And this is my thing. I think my biggest, failure or shortcoming or opportunity, as I like to say, because we're all just doing the best we can, is really embracing when I'm impatient or short with them. It's something with me, right? Like if I'm nervous, if Emmy's like having a tantrum somewhere and I'm short with her, I'm like, wait, what's going on here? This is a me thing, right? And so just kind of recognizing like I'm tired, I'm cranky, I'm impatient, I'm bringing this to the moment. I think you're causing a scene. And I'm like, no, just let it go. Trying to judge time on a toddler or time on an 11-year-old is like an exercise in just frustration. So I throw away the clock and I'm like, all right, if we're 5 minutes late, we're 5 minutes late. So I actually have a little index card that says like, please be patient. While the Shanahans can all work on a little patience, work on our patience. So that's something that we're constantly inviting.
That's so great. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Gosh, I just think, like trust in the process, right? It's so, and I'm probably going to say that even now when I'm 90, looking back on this age, that I think I'm like, I'm not arrived, but like trust in the process and don't take it all so seriously. And I want to go back to that child, because we were babies at 18, even though you think you know the whole world. And I want to hug and embrace all of those ages to be like just don't be so hard on yourself. It's good. You just take a breath, like the perspective piece and just nurturing, ambitious, eager, everything, all the things, taking
Trust
a breath
in the
and just looking back.
Yes, that's so great. Trust in the process and take a breath. Who is one person or one organization I want to give a shout out to that has had a positive impact on you around adoption?
Oh gosh, I would say Tamikia from Styles for Kids. I mean, I've never met somebody who just embraced and met me where I was, but told me exactly what I needed to hear. Yeah. Now, the opportunity is I took it, right? Some people hear it and it falls on deaf ears. So it's like, but I am so thankful for her being just straightforward. Like, okay, you're here. Here's the deal. And I would also say Renosha from Reagan Sinai Products. Okay, so we carry her line.
Okay.
She's fabulous. Watching her grow from she started in her apartment, in her kitchen because of her daughter, Reagan, and couldn't find hair products. She's really focused on hair. And I mean, her ingredients have like 5 ingredients, like banana, avocado. They're so effective. She called me. Once I ordered something from her, it was like, do you have a question? She called me on the phone and talked to me for a half hour. I had no idea. I was like, who's calling? This is amazing. Gave me advice, inspired me. And then when I kicked off this business, I was like, you're the only products I want right now. Can we do that? She said yes. I went down, I visited her, and she has given me the phrase that I never forget. And I borrow now, and it's on our Sweet Peachtree product line, what you water will grow. Because that is just, she again inspired me of like taking charge, embracing what you don't know, just like Tamika did. And this is a journey of education, and like you can do great things even when you're like, I have no business trying to figure out how to do this thing, right? And then you just keep growing with that passion, and you're smart about it, and you figure it out, and you pivot, and you just keep driving towards it. So those 2 women, I actually think about them all the time. I tell them, I'll send them random emails like, thank you, just again, of just how inspiring they were and positive in my adoption journey, particularly as it relates to transracial adoption.
So beautiful. Describe adoption in 3 words.
Oh gosh. From the gal who just talked for like thousands of words, I would say beautiful, gratitude, and just like peace.
Thank you so much, Kate. I'm so glad that we had this conversation.
Thank you. I just, clearly could talk about this for all hours of the day. It's just such a beautiful journey for so many people. And I thank you for the work that you do. I mean, so many families, I could tear up thinking about how many families you've helped bring together, to quarterback this with folks who know nothing about what they're doing, but just know that they have their eye on the prize of like, the family's not done and my baby's there somewhere, So thank you. I just feel so blessed to be a part of this community.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Adoption Roadmap podcast. If you did, I have a few favors to ask of you. First, please hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, I'd love to hear your takeaways. Please write a review and let me know what you liked. And if you have a question or a suggestion on what you'd like to hear, I'd love to hear that too. Please shoot me an email at support@rgadoptionconsulting.com and let me know what you'd like to hear about. And if you have a question, I may just answer it online. Thanks again for listening. Tune in every Wednesday and Friday morning for a brand new episode of the Adoption Roadmap podcast. Until next time, bye-bye.